You ever get that feeling like the universe just dropped something in your lap at the exact moment you needed it most? Like you've been stumbling around in the dark for months, maybe years, and suddenly someone flicks on the lights. That's not coincidence, that's readiness. And if you clicked on this video, if something pulled you here right now, it's because you crossed a line you didn't even know existed. You've moved from wanting change to actually being ready for it. And trust me, there's a massive difference between those two things. Most people spend their entire lives wanting to feel different, wanting better relationships, wanting more money, wanting to finally figure out what they're supposed to be doing with their time on this planet. But wanting is passive. It's safe. It lets you dream about transformation without actually having to do anything uncomfortable. Readiness is terrifying because it means you've run out of excuses. You've hit that point where staying the same hurts more than changing does. Here's what nobody tells you about readiness. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It doesn't come with a manual or a motivational speech. It shows up quietly, usually disguised as exhaustion. You wake up one morning and you're tired. Tired of your own patterns. Tired of having the same conversations with yourself. Tired of feeling like you're watching your life happen to someone else. That exhaustion isn't weakness. It's your soul finally saying enough. And that's when everything starts shifting. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you finally stop pretending that where you are is where you want to stay. You stop making peace with situations that were slowly killing your spirit. You stop convincing yourself that mediocrity was somehow noble, that settling was the mature thing to do. The truth is, you've been preparing for this moment longer than you realize, gathering strength in ways you didn't even notice. Think about it. Every disappointment that didn't break you. Every time you got back up when you wanted to stay down. Every moment you chose to try again when logic said quit. All of that was building something inside you. Not hope, not optimism, but something deeper. Resilience. The kind that doesn't need pep talks or external validation. The kind that just quietly knows it can handle whatever comes next. But here's where most people get stuck. They mistake readiness for a feeling. They wait to feel ready, to feel confident, to feel like they have all the answers before they make a move. That's not how readiness works. Readiness isn't a feeling. It's a recognition. It's the moment you stop asking if you're ready and start asking what you're gonna do next. Because ready people don't wait for perfect conditions. They work with what they have. You want to know what readiness really looks like? It's messy. It's starting before you feel prepared. It's making decisions with incomplete information because you finally understand that waiting for certainty is just another form of hiding. It's choosing discomfort over dissatisfaction. It's realizing that the life you've been living, while safe and familiar, has been slowly suffocating the person you're meant to become. And that person, the one you're meant to become, they've been waiting patiently, not judging, not rushing, just waiting for you to get tired enough of your own limitations to finally meet them. They've been sending you signals for years. Those random moments when you felt like you were capable of so much more. Those glimpses of clarity when everything suddenly made sense. Those whispers of intuition that you kept dismissing as unrealistic or impossible. But here's what changes when you're finally ready. Those whispers get louder. Not because they're shouting, but because you finally stopped covering your ears. You start noticing patterns you've been blind to for years. You start seeing opportunities that were always there, but invisible to your unprepared eyes. You start attracting different energy because you're finally vibrating at a different frequency. The universe has this interesting way of testing readiness. It doesn't send you what you want. It sends you what you need to prove you're serious. It gives you small opportunities to practice being the person you claim you want to become. And most people fail these tests because they're looking for the big break, the dramatic moment, the obvious sign. But readiness gets trained in the small moments, in choosing discipline over comfort, in saying no to things that don't align with who you're becoming, and taking responsibility for your energy, your choices, your life. When you're truly ready, you stop waiting for permission. You stop needing everyone to understand your decisions. You stop explaining yourself to people who weren't asking the right questions anyway. You realize that most of the obstacles you've been complaining about were actually just excuses dressed up as legitimate problems. The money, the time, the support, the knowledge, all the things you thought you were missing, they were never really the issue. The issue was that you weren't ready to receive them, to handle them, to be worthy of them. And worthiness, that's not about deserving. It's about capacity. It's about becoming the kind of person who can hold what they're asking for without self-destructing. Think about it. How many times have you gotten exactly what you thought you wanted only to sabotage it because deep down you didn't believe you belonged there? That's what happens when you get something before you're ready for it. But when you're truly ready, when you've done the internal work, when you've faced your fears and healed your wounds and stopped running from yourself, everything changes. You start showing up differently, not performing, not pretending, just being. You start making decisions from a place of clarity instead of desperation. You start building instead of just consuming. You start creating instead of just complaining. And people notice, not because you're trying to impress them, but because authenticity is magnetic. Because confidence doesn't need to announce itself. Because ready people don't have to convince anyone of anything. They just move with purpose. This is why timing matters. This is why everything you've been through, all the false starts and failed attempts, and moments when you almost gave up but didn't, this is why all of that was necessary. Because you weren't ready then. You needed to learn what you learned. You needed to fail how you failed. You needed to discover your own strength the hard way. Because that's the only way it sticks. So if you're here, if something about this feels familiar, if these words are hitting different than they would have 6 months ago, pay attention. Because readiness isn't about having it all figured out. It's about finally being willing to figure it out as you go. And here's what's wild about being ready. It doesn't feel like you think it will. There's no dramatic music, no lightning bolt moment where suddenly everything clicks into place. Most of the time, readiness feels like surrender. Not giving up, but letting go of the version of yourself that was holding you back. It's that quiet moment when you stop fighting the current and start swimming with it. You know what's interesting? The people in your life who've been watching you struggle, they're going to notice this shift before you do. They're going to see you making different choices, setting different boundaries, responding to chaos with a calmness that wasn't there before. And some of them won't like it because your readiness threatens their comfort with staying stuck. Your willingness to change forces them to confront their own unwillingness to evolve. But that's not your problem anymore, because when you're ready, you stop managing other people's reactions to your growth. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You stop apologizing for becoming who you were always meant to be. And this isn't about becoming selfish or cutting people off. It's about finally understanding that you can't love anyone properly if you're not willing to love yourself enough to change. Here's something nobody prepared you for. Readiness comes with its own kind of loneliness, not because you're alone, but because you're finally awake in a world full of people who are still sleepwalking through their lives. You start seeing things differently. Conversations that used to drain you become intolerable. Situations you used to tolerate become impossible to ignore. People you used to seek validation from suddenly seem small and afraid. And that loneliness, it's not punishment, it's purification. It's your life clearing out everything that doesn't match your new frequency. Because ready people don't just attract different opportunities. They attract different people. The kind who aren't threatened by growth, who don't need you to stay small to feel secure, who celebrate your evolution instead of questioning it. But before those new people show up, you're going to go through a phase that feels like walking through a desert. Everything familiar falls away and you're not sure what's coming to replace it. Your old coping mechanisms don't work anymore. Your old excuses sound hollow even to you. Your old identity starts cracking, and for a while, you might not recognize yourself in the mirror. This is where most people turn back. This is where they decide that maybe the old life wasn't so bad after all. They retreat into familiar dysfunction because uncertainty feels more dangerous than dissatisfaction. But if you can push through this phase, if you can sit with the discomfort of not knowing who you're becoming while you're becoming it, that's where the magic happens. Because on the other side of that uncertainty is a version of yourself you've never met, but somehow always known was there. The version that doesn't second guess every decision. The version that trusts their instincts without needing external confirmation. The version that can hold space for both success and failure without their identity collapsing. You've known for a while now, the voice that's been whispering to you, the one you've been drowning out with distractions and excuses and endless research. That voice is still there, and it's getting harder to ignore. Because readiness doesn't come with a roadmap or a guarantee. It just comes with clarity. And if you've made it this far, if something inside you recognized itself in these words, then the question isn't whether you're ready anymore. The question is what you're going to do about it. Because readiness without action is just another form of waiting. And you've done enough waiting. The version of yourself that's been patiently knocking at the door of your consciousness, they're not going to wait forever, not because they're impatient, but because life is moving with or without you. And you can either step into who you're meant to become, or you can keep watching from the sidelines while time does what time does. Your moment is now. Not when you feel more prepared, not when the conditions are perfect, not when you figured out every detail. Now, because ready people don't wait for perfect timing. They make timing perfect by finally deciding to move. If this hits you in a way that feels different, drop a comment and just say, I'm ready. No explanation needed. Just those two words, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is make a declaration to yourself and mean it. And if you know someone who's been stuck in wanting instead of being ready, share this with them. They might need to hear it just as much as you did. The door's open. The path is clear. The only question left is whether you're finally ready to walk through it.